All right, it's just about 6:30, so we're going to get started. As people come into the room, hopefully you saw it, but toward the back we have some brochures. Those are all for you to take. One of the best ones is actually from the state, the Hurricane Guide. It covers everything we're going to talk about. So storm surge down by the coast, rainfall, flooding, rip currents, wind, all of that is there. Really appreciate everybody coming out tonight. If you have a neighbor, family member, friend that could not attend, we are recording this. We won't be recording you, just whoever's presenting up here. So we'll share that on our YouTube channel, NWS Morehead City, so you can certainly share that with the community. For tonight, we're going to focus on preparedness, focus on the impacts. Water's what kills people. We really want to get people away from the category, focus on the storm, and that's why we're going to talk about all the impacts in terms of mainly water. And try to do one thing after tonight's forum to get prepared, the thing that you've been putting off. I know it's after Labor Day. We just had the gentleman interview us from the Daily Reflector. It's quiet. It feels like fall. The kids are back in school. We don't want people to let their guard down. Some of our biggest storms have been later into September and the month of October. So we're not through with it in terms of storms yet. If you were not aware, the hurricane outlook for this year is a 90% chance it's going to be above normal. It has been a very slow start so far, which we're thankful for, but I'll show you things are changing. They can change really quickly. Regardless of what this says behind me, every year I will say the same thing. It takes one storm. That's not a line that I have to tell you. That's not something that we're preached to in the office. This is reality. If we have the wimpiest storm season in the history of storms and we get a Floyd, it's a big deal for us. So the outlook is important, but you really should be prepared each and every year, no matter what that outlook says, regardless of if it actually happens or not. Just a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with our website, weather.gov, National Weather Service site? So a decent amount. If you're not, the easy joke with that is if it's the weather you love, it's weather.gov. In all seriousness, we have 122 offices in the country. We've got offices in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and Newport, North Carolina. So we cover Pitt. We have a small office for rural Eastern North Carolina. We're just down the road from you. It's your tax money at work. It's about $4 a year per person to fund us. So anytime you see the radar, anytime you see satellite, whether you're watching Jim Cantori on the Weather Channel or your local meteorologist on the local stations, it all comes from us in the room. We're paying for that via our tax money. So try to use our local website. There's no commercials on it. It's weather.gov/Newport. You can scan the QR code. A lot of good information, forecasts, warnings, and then there's a tropical page on it. So it's very, very good, useful information. Again, I try to stress this with people. It's not that the folks in the private sector don't do a good job, but they're in Atlanta, State College, or another state many states away. We are in Newport, North Carolina, forecasting for you. We're open 24/7, trying to get the weather right for Pitt County. One other thing that I want you to be aware of is the National Hurricane Center site. You can get this from our homepage, or you can go to hurricanes.gov. That's hurricanes with an S. You can also scan the QR code. Is anybody familiar with this tropical weather outlook? If you're not familiar with this graphic, I can pretty much guarantee if you watch the local news, they show it all the time. They call it the tropical outlook, and they show you kind of a percent of what's going to happen in terms of a storm chance over the next 7 days. So we will highlight a low chance, medium chance, or high chance of a storm forming in the next 7 days. It's something good to pay attention to every day. Do you have to look at this every day, every minute? No. But as you wake up in the morning, should I be concerned? Should I be paying attention? For example, this is what it looks like right now. So it's not to alarm you. Nothing's going to hit us in the next couple days, but when you see a medium and a high chance for a storm forming out here, this is kind of the area that we're concerned with. We should be paying attention. Again, you don't need to look at this every minute of the day, but just first thing in the morning, and there's Francine, the latest tropical storm down in the Gulf of Mexico. So the tropical weather outlook is extremely useful, very, very good information for you to have. Again, it's hurricanes.gov is our website for that. This is a good kind of a primer before the storm actually happens and gets a name for its potential. Raise your hand if you are familiar with this graphic, the forecast cone. I know you've seen this, whether it's on, see, everybody's seen this one. the most popular forecast graphic that we produce from the Weather Service, but also the most misunderstood. What this shows is where the most probable path for the center of the storm will go. And I'm not a lawyer, but I said it very like what a lawyer would say. And the reason for that is this path doesn't show who will be impacted and who won't. It says nothing about how much rainfall you're going to get, what is the tornado potential. It says nothing about that. It just shows where we think the dot on the map is going to go. And a hurricane's not a dot on a map. It's hundreds of miles across. So my point to you, if you're anywhere near this path, you should be paying attention. So in this case, you know, just because we're not in it for Eastern North Carolina, this is with Ian a couple of years ago, we did see impacts. Florence, we were not in the cone, places like New Bern, as it got closer, because the center didn't hit in New Bern, it hit down in Wrightsville Beach. So this is useful only to show you, should I pay attention to what's coming up? If you're near it, pay attention. It's not an in or out type of thing, should you be concerned. So forecast cone is useful, but it can be misunderstood. Sometimes people think if they're out of the cone itself that they're not going to have anything. Something that's a little more useful, all of this is on our website. All of this is on hurricanes.gov. Again, for some folks just joining us, you can scan the QR code. This is a little more useful because you can see it's a nice broad area of who's going to be impacted instead of just that small skinny cone. This is a time of arrival for winds. This is really useful for, I'm going to leave the area, when do I need to leave the area by? I'm going to stay, when do I need to finish my yard prep? This is a great graphic. So in this case, Southern Georgia, I would say sometime by Thursday evening, as long as you've finished all your plans to leave the area or stay and board up, you are good to go. So the point of that I want to make with those is there's a ton of information out there, weather.gov or hurricanes with an s.gov, really, really good information at your fingertips. And that's what leads me to social media. If you follow social media, whether you're on X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, just search NWS Morehead City. There's a lot of information on social media. We're all aware of that. We will share official sources of information. We're very clear with what we say. We don't say this is going to happen and this is going to happen. We don't worry you about storms 2 weeks out that are never going to happen. There's a lot of wasted energy on social media. You can hear about every storm you want if you want to follow the backyard forecasters, but they're going to tell you about every single thing and you're going to wear yourself out. Do we get it right every time? I'm not saying we do, but we are clear with our message, very consistent. If the trend changes, we slowly move with that. We don't do the windshield wiper back and forth. So please follow us on social media and you can help your community share our information. We can't compete with everybody unless you share it. So if you see our information and you want to help your community, give it a like, give it a share, and people will see accurate information. The point, one thing I want to point out about this tweet that I did back in 2018, this is a Thursday morning. I know you all did not have a major impact here in Pitt County. So Florence for us, just south of you, was our Floyd. Your Floyd was your big storm. And that tweet says, category of the storm is only related to wind. Doesn't tell you about all the impacts. Our impacts have not changed with storm surge and catastrophic flooding. I get paid the same tonight to do this talk, maybe get some Parker's barbecue and have a great evening because I love talking about weather. I get paid the same tonight as I do during Florence, Floyd, Matthew, all of them. I don't benefit at all if the storm is bad. When we use information like that and those words, it's because I see your faces and I remember you from the forums and we care about the community. So when we're waving our hands and using words like that, it means we really mean business with regard to what's headed our way. So that was a little bit about the Weather Service, websites, how you get information. You're not going to be lacking information. Your job is to focus on official sources and just pay attention to that. The next step, I want to go over preparedness. We have a really good website. We're trying to consolidate everything in one spot. If you're familiar with our website, you just put on hurricane prep there. We've got graphics for know your zone, evacuation zones. We've got what to put in your kit, what you should do with your house, homeowners insurance, flooding insurance, having cash on hand, gassing up your vehicle. All the tips are there. We also have information in Spanish and also videos for the deaf and hard of hearing. Planning now is key. It finally feels like fall, feels great. I mean, you cannot ask for better weather than tonight. We will take thank you cards. We're at 533 Roberts Road in Newport if you want to thank us. But in all seriousness, think about times in your life when you've had to make decisions. Sometimes you just have to act and you're under stress and you have no time. You just do the best you can, let the chips fall where they may. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. But think about those times in your life where you had a lot of time to plan and you were not stressed. You made a good decision. If you work on your hurricane kit tonight or this weekend, you're going to make good decisions. If you wait about 10 days and some of those areas start to move toward us, you're not going to make the good decisions. We will be out of water. We will run out of gas and things like that. And again, it's not alarmist. That's just because I've lived here. I know what happens. So planning today is key. And planning doesn't start with a hurricane kit. It doesn't start with an evacuation plan. It starts with what is your vulnerability? Who is in your house? What is your health status? Where do you live? So a lot of people jump to the weather. I live in a low-lying area. I'm at flood risk. That is important. That is part of it. You have elderly parents. Is somebody on oxygen or a medical need, a CPAP, something in your home where if they lose electricity, they're in a rough shape. If I lose electricity, I'm inconvenienced because we don't have air conditioning, but I don't rely on it for health-wise. What's your vulnerability? Who do you have to evacuate? My parents moved down. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and they live 15 minutes from me. So my vulnerability is now a lot higher because I get to evacuate 3 teenagers and a wife from my house, and then I have to worry about my mom and her cats. Where are they going to go? So that's my vulnerability. So it includes, more than weather, who is living in your home. Now that you think about that, you talk about your kid. At least 3 days of food, water, and medicine. But think about other things, your contact lenses, prescriptions. If they're about to run out, make sure they're refilled. Kitty litter, baby formula, diapers. Again, whoever's in your house, whatever they need. You're not going to be able to go to CVS or Walgreens or Walmart at the snap of fingers. We're just so used to just going down the road to get whatever we want. That may not be the case during a storm. If you can, up to a week would be best. The reason we say that is it takes a while for stores to get back online. It takes a while for roads to get repaired or not have water over them. I understand financial hardships that you can't get everything in a week for some of us or for a week worth of supplies. That's why we plan it out. Get your bottled water this weekend. Next weekend, do your canned goods. Focus on your priority first, and then you'll spread that financial impact out. So anything you'll need to cook without power, so non-perishable goods, and I won't go over everything, but that's all on our website. There's FEMA, NC Ready. There's a lot of information out there if you want to do a hurricane kit list. A lot of good stuff, but having non-perishable goods, having a way to battery operated radios so you can get information either from the Weather Service or local media. Those are all good things to have for sure. And last but not least, have a plan to leave. You live in Pitt County, you're an hour and a half, 2 hours from the beach. If you were not aware, you can be just as impacted, if not more, than the coast. Again, you can be impacted just as much, if not more, than people at the coast. It just depends. Is it Floyd? Is it Matthew? Fran? Do you have wind that comes right, up toward Raleigh? Depends on the storm. So have a way to go somewhere else. Raleigh or Goldsboro, those may not be options. If it's a Dorian, it depends on the storm. For some storms, sure, you can go just a little bit inland. But I always like to tell people at least 2 options, maybe a northern route or a southern route. Go to the mountains. Some cases they get it really bad, so you may want to go to Richmond. It just depends. But please have a plan to leave, especially if you go back to that vulnerability and you live in a vulnerable area. If you live in an area that usually evacuates or floods, you will be more comfortable at a hotel or with friends and family than you would be staying at home or shelter. Shelters are great, safe places, but they're a last resort. They're for your safety, but they're not the Holiday Inn, the Hilton. They're just a safe place. Think about all those relatives that come visit you on the way to the beach or come down for our great barbecue. Go visit them. go return the favor and go visit them. You'll be way more comfortable there than you would be in a shelter. The reason why I'm talking about this so much is we are the most frequently impacted stretch of coastline in the entire country. So again, most frequently impacted stretch of coastline. Some of that's because we stick out. It's because of the Outer Banks. We're by the Gulf Stream. Lots of reasons why we get a lot of storms. But for you, it's not just a coastal issue. You can get storms inland. Usually rain is our biggest issue, but we can also get wind as far inland as this. So I'm going to show you some pictures. This is to show you what can happen in your community. I don't want to upset people, or I don't want to scare people that are new. I want to show you reality, what happens. Because for me, it was a little surprising growing up in Maryland, being a kid that loved the snow. I was more into winter weather. How far inland these impacts can occur. Storm surge all the way to Kinston, flooding, certainly all the way to the mountains. So those are a sample of some of the historic storms in our area. There is no Floyd really without Dennis. So what happened the weeks prior to the storm is very, very important as well. I didn't have Florence on here because for you, it was not too big of a deal. It was mainly just south of here. But Matthew was one of the biggest floods of record on the Char River in Greenville. But your big one was Floyd, just shy of 30 feet. That was definitely the big one with that. The time to prepare is now. I would show you this in May. The same thing, I would show you this in October. So we're going to skip forward to the peak. We should have a lot of times we celebrate in the office with a cake at the end of the season. We don't celebrate the peak. The peak of the season is tomorrow. So if you were watching the NFL football games over the weekend and we got a game tonight, we are at halftime. So let me say that again. We are at halftime for the hurricane season. It hasn't been much. Nothing's happened. It is not over yet. Matthew was in October. So a lot of our storms are clustered around this mid-September to early October period. But again, we can get storms later into the season, like we did with Matthew and Sandy, and then in the 50s, Hazel in 1954 was an autumn storm as well. So we've got a ways to get through the season. Just down the road from us, this is what the Greenville run looked like in Floyd. So yes, we can get flooding here on the campus or nearby. A lot of focus is on category. We've gotten a lot more accurate. Are we still going to make little errors here and there? Yes. But the error with Florence was 5 miles, 5 days out. You're not going to get much better than that. Where we struggle is people having an imagination it could really be as bad as it could be, or getting away from the category focus. I'm not going to leave unless it's a 2 or 3. I'm all the way in Winterville. I'm not going anywhere unless it's a 3. Well, what if we get 20 inches of rain? That's a big deal. And if you need a reminder for those that have been here, just think about Matthew, Florence down our way, Hermine, Ophelia last year. We've had almost 200 deaths and $200 billion of damage from just category 1s. Again, we could have Tropical Storm Eric. If it produces 20 inches of rain, and we had 10 inches of rain last week, it's going to be a big deal, and it doesn't even have a number. Water is what kills. 85% of people that die in a hurricane is because of water. It's not that wind doesn't do damage to your property or cause power outages and cell phone issues. It's not that a tree can't fall in your car or your house and certainly be tragic. But 85% of people die because of storm surge, flooding for you, or rip currents as you visit the beach. And these, again, are pictures. I forgot to move this one. This would be a nice picture of flooding on Floyd. That's some stuff down the road from us in New Bern. Again, you all were right on the edge of pretty catastrophic flooding. The point that I wanted to make with this was in Florence, 11 to 15 deaths were flooding, so it's not like an old statistic, and all were in vehicles. So never ever cross a flooded road. If you decide to stay, stay in. If you decide to leave, stay away. If you can remember that, you'll be fine. Water's nothing to be afraid of. You just don't want to cross it. And unfortunately, in Floyd, we had 6 deaths in our county, and 1 on the campus of ECU, a freshman. So we've had loss of life here in Pitt County. And it's not to scare you. It's just for new people, I want you to realize you don't have to live at the beach to be impacted by hurricanes. It's a little less frequent, but you certainly can get it. Past experience can be a good thing, but sometimes people say, hey, I made it through Floyd. We never flooded in Floyd. I'll never flood again. There's always another storm. There's always Every storm is unique, just like all our names in this room. We have different personalities. A storm has a different personality as well. And then I point out, sometimes people don't think it would be as bad because it's just a category 1. This is 12 to 15 inches of rain and wind all the way up here in Pitt County from Hurricane Irene. It was just a 1, but it still produced a huge impact on our area, slow moving, large, and it produced rain and wind even all the way up here, hour and a half from the coast. This is Floyd. A lot of you know that's the eye of the storm. These bright clouds are showers and thunderstorms. This is an infrared satellite. It colorizes the higher cloud tops. The taller they are, the more moisture they can produce. And as I look through this again, landfall is important, category is important, but too many people focus on just when is the landfall? 8 o'clock today? Well, look at the eye, and here we are in Eastern North Carolina. Hours and days before that gets here, we're impacted. So that's what I mean about that forecast cone. If you're near it, pay attention, and don't just focus on when is landfall. These things can be here for hours and many, many days, producing heavy rainfall and also flooding. We've done a pretty good job with pre-storm. Have your kit, make it 7 days. Where we could probably improve is post-storm. You've got that fancy generator. Don't use it in a garage. You might say, Eric, I didn't come in 75-degree weather on a beautiful night to here. I should not use a generator in my garage. We lose people each year in the country because of carbon monoxide poisoning with generators. If you're not usually on a ladder, let your young neighbors clean up the debris. If you're, so heart attacks, cleaning up debris, electrocutions, there's wires down. The other big one is water. The water is nasty, especially down our way. I'm not sure how it is in Pitt, but we still have a lot of people on septic. You don't want to be in that water. We've lost people. I'm not talking in Texas, in Eastern North Carolina, that had injuries on their body to infections. So again, if you're going to stay, that's fine. Stay in. You don't need to be the first yard cleaned up. You don't need to get across town to check on somebody. Just stay where you are, because we're losing about half our people after the storm. We're already kind of done with everything. So Randy can tell me about this. Last time I checked, we don't have storm surge in Pitt County. So boom, we crossed that one off. But a little interesting thing, storm surge can come up the Neuse to Kinston. It doesn't necessarily flood them from just pure surge, but it keeps the river backed up, and then that can add to their flooding. So last time I checked, you don't get it in Pitt County, luckily, so we'll focus on these other aspects. If you're not supposed to focus on the category of the storm, what should you focus on? And we're going to end with this, and that is all the other impacts. Your biggest risk here in Pitt County is flash flooding from rainfall. Category of the storm is not going to tell you how much rain you get. So again, if we get a Cat 1 10 days from now, just look at how much rain you're going to get. Cars can float in less than 2 feet of water. This is Greenville and Floyd. And again, it's very, very common for hurricanes to produce inches and multiple feet of rain. It's not like a unique thing. This is one I know some of the audience, some of our more experienced folks have seen, but this is a point we want to emphasize over and over again. You have a little bit of terrain out where we are. And I don't mean Mount Mitchell or Boone or Blowing Rock, just a little bit of hills, right? So when you get rain, you can get rain water that flows very quickly and causes flash flooding. So never cross a flooded road. Water is extremely powerful. The second part of it is you don't know how deep the water is or if the road exists. And again, this is near Hookerton, just down the road from us in Greene County. It's not some picture I found on Google. What's the craziest image I could find? This happens all the time. The conduit under the road is designed for a certain amount of water. When it exceeds that, the earth around it or rocks erodes away. Very, very common. So again, never cross a flooded road. You don't know how deep it is, especially at night. You would say, obviously I wouldn't drive across that. But when there's water, you don't realize how deep it is, especially at night. And this water pipe over here, when we talk about evacuations, we'll never, as a weather service, tell you what you should do. But I do want you to keep in mind when the county or the state or the local town advises you to do something, it's not all about where you live. You can have the best generator and you're up a hill and nothing's going to happen to you because your house is in perfect shape. That might be true, but the stuff getting to you, the ambulance can't go down that road, the water line is not getting to your road, so you may be on your own for a while. When you call 911, they may not be able to get to you like they usually do. not scaring you, it's just reality. So when we talk about leaving the area, it's not just about where you are, it's about, I put it back there, Pat. Did you want that photo? It's a good visual, it's for sure. So our big campaign with that is turn around, don't drown, never, ever, ever cross a flooded road. Half our deaths are from people crossing flooded roads. It's not that the water comes up and they didn't realize it was going to be really, really bad. Your second biggest risk up here is certainly river flooding. It's right there with flash flooding. For Floyd, it took a month to go below flood stage here in Greenville. So it takes a while. We've got the beautiful mountains to our west and the coast down the ways. The water flows through our large rivers like the Tar River, and it takes a long time to go down. So it could be tricky getting back to the area. It could be tricky moving across the county, just depending on where you live. So again, never cross a flooded road, don't go across barricades, things like that. Rip currents, last time I checked, you also don't have a beach in Pitt County, but we lose on average about 10 people per year at our beaches because of rip currents. We lose more people because of rip currents than tornadoes, lightning, flooding, all combined. So if we have a storm out in the ocean over the next 10 days or a storm's approaching, risk of rip currents is probably going to be high from that swell. We've done a pretty good job trying to get this message out, but you can help us. When you see that graphic, oh, it's going to be a nice weekend. We had Ernesto a couple of weeks ago. We lost one person at Surf City down the beach there. Beautiful weekend. It's 85 and sunny. It's not ominous like a thunderstorm. So just tell your kids or young people if they get pulled out, not to fight it. You want to swim left or right or parallel. They're not anything to be afraid of. There are breaks in the sandbar, and that rush of water will go back into the ocean and carry you out. People come into trouble when they try to fight the rip current instead of swimming left or right. And that's why we put rip currents in there, because they are one of our biggest killers. Second to last is wind. This is an example from Hurricane Arthur in 2014. It was a Cat 2 that hit down by Cape Lookout. Does anybody remember Arthur? Kind of a small storm. How about Irene? Does anybody remember Irene? A lot more people. This was a Cat 2 that was small and quick moving. Irene was a 1, slower moving storm, much larger. It hit at the same location. So wind can vary depending on speed and how large the storm is. The other thing I wanted to point out, you don't remember Arthur because it was not even barely a breeze here in Pitt County, but landfall was here. If it just shifted 50 miles to the west, all this wind would shift 50 miles to the west. So just keep in mind, as accurate as we are, if it hits on the right side of the cone or the left side of the cone, and I was going to use another football term like game of inches. I mean, in meteorology, that's nothing. That's just a drop in the bucket. But it's a big difference to Pitt County if it hits over here or if it hits Beaufort County over in Washington or Belhaven. It makes a huge difference. A lot of times we just don't know about that until it's 6 hours out, 12 hours out, because these things can kind of move around. At the end is tornadoes. We had this with Debbie a couple weeks ago. We lost somebody up toward Wilson County, up toward Raleigh. EF3 tornado, pretty big tornado. It was EF2 when it was in our area by Snow Hill. Toward tropical cyclones, whether they're a hurricane, tropical storm, they're already rotating. So it's pretty easy to think that they'll produce tornadoes. The thing I want you to realize is, especially where you live inland, they occur usually on the outer fringes of the storm. So with Dorian, this produced an EF2 tornado, Bogue Inlet Pier. This is Emerald Isle. For most of us, Dorian wasn't really a big deal, unless you lived on Ocracoke or Emerald Isle. But that was the first rain band that came on shore. So again, if you decide to stay, stay. Don't wait till the last second to do stuff. Get your stuff done and go inside. And when you're inside, make sure you have a no weather radio powered up, and your cell phone, if it's at night, it's not on do not disturb. It's powered up, it's ready to go to alert you. We often don't know about these until minutes before they hit, but they can produce some enhanced damage well away from the storm. So what can you do now? We're going to transition after this slide to the county. They're going to talk about a few things. And we talk about alerting. There is a way in the county. They have a great program that you can sign up for and to be alerted for all of these type of weather disasters. Share this information. We got t-ball and baseball and softball going on and soccer. It's a gorgeous evening outside. We know the whole community is not here. So through the paper, the college, and the county, we're going to share this recording. But do your part. If somebody new to the area, could benefit from this information, share this with them. Remember to focus on the impacts. Don't just focus on the category. Look at things like how much rain are we going to get? What is the wind going to be? What's the flooding potential? You don't have to be a meteorologist. We will send this out to the community, and the county puts this out as well. You don't need to really search for this information. It is all over. I'm going to skip past this part. I'll just mention it briefly. We do have a program called Weather Ready Nation Ambassadors. We're trying to work with local organizations. The county is involved. ECU is a member. Schools, that's the Aurora Library. We did a book club on weather. We'll work tirelessly to do talks like these, but I should mention I really appreciate ECU having us up here. Unless we have a venue to do it in front of your HOA, your civic group, then we don't have a place to do it. So we try to work through this ambassador program. Anybody can sign up as an organization, church, school, business, and we can provide you with weather information throughout the year. And we're talking preparedness, not like warnings and so forth. But you can talk to me at the end. So I'm going to transition to the county. You all, I don't know if it's going to be Mr. Randy's going to speak, but while we wait for them to come up, that is my email. If you have any questions on anything weather related, please send us an email. And as he comes up, we do tours of the weather service. You want to come see us do a weather balloon launch, you want to see all the fancy equipment we use, by all means, come down to the weather service and just send me an email. So Mr. Randy Gentry is going to speak from the county, kind of a county perspective. Our expertise is weather, and their expertise is local emergency management. So Mr. Randy is going to speak to that. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for participating and coming out. I'm always excited when we have opportunity to speak to community groups and the public about the weather when it's not impending upon us. A lot of times, that's the only time anybody wants to talk to us in emergency management is when something's 24 hours or less at our doorstep, and then they want to know what the plan is or what they need to do to plan. So our message consistently is, no matter when we get the opportunity, is do you have a plan? And if you don't, can you make one? And we point to some of the resources that Eric has pointed out from National Weather, where to find those lists and those things that you can be prepared for whatever is impending upon our community. So really excited about people coming out and having an interest in knowing what to do to take action or shelter. And I really appreciate him pointing out that emergency shelters are not comfortable. It's a place to get out of the weather. It's a place to come if you have nowhere else to go. But now is the time to plan. And I know Tyler, my EM planner, gets tired of me talking about blue sky days. But today is the day to start planning what to do, where you're going to go, or if you plan to stay, what kind of resources you need to have for yourself. We do have plans for sheltering, and I'm of the school. It's the last thing I want to do is open a shelter, but I will if we feel like, in the information that National Weather gives us, we need to go ahead and plan for that. We have those plans in place and we can roll those out. Another thing we're really excited about is our hyper reach, and I'm going to introduce Tyler Rhodes. He's our EM planner in our office. He's going to talk about the app that you can sign up for to get the message out, or get the messages to know what to do, when to do your planning.
Thanks, Randy. Again, my name is Tyler Rhodes with Pitt County Emergency Management. Just wanted to highlight our banner tonight that we take out for group events like this. Basically, this is another form of communication with you guys, relaying that national and local information for based on your GPS on your cell phone. So obviously the GPS knows where you are, and as the impacts come in your area, the system HyperReach, which you register for, will be able to notify you. Like the National Weather Service has got on their slide here, building a weather ready nation. That starts with building a weather ready community right here with you. So with this program, we've seen about 1,000% increase in people sign up. So this can be used not only for weather, which is the most likely hazard that you'll face. Severe weather is your most likely impact that can hurt you. But we can use this for other things like hazardous material releases and communication with you guys If you remember a couple weeks ago when we had the 4 a.m. tornado watches or tornado warnings coming through, HyperReach will send you a text and email along with the National Weather Service broadcast. So it's just another tool in the toolbox to keep you aware of what's going on, and you don't have to think about, is my radio on or what channel do I need to put it on? The cell phone's GPS automatically knows where you are, and when the National Weather Service issues that severe weather warning, you're notified. So it's a really easy way to not be constantly monitoring like a 4 a.m. Weather event. This will bridge that gap for you and notify with you. So again, come on up and scan with your smartphone the QR code. If you don't feel comfortable with that, just take a picture of the website that's on our banner and go online and sign up for yourself with email or phone number for text. You can also create groups for the rest of the people in your home. So you could create one for your spouse or child or anybody else, maybe elderly grandparent. And I wanted to wrap up on that last note too. Please be aware of who's around you. If you've got elderly folks next door to you, check on them before the event. Take the time to make sure they're okay, make sure they're aware of what's going on, and make sure their pets are taken care of and that they got a plan and can communicate if something bad, happens during the event. So with that, that's going to wrap us up from the county level, and I'll turn it back over to Eric.
All right, I really appreciate that. I think we're all set. If anybody has any questions, let us know. I was never one for asking questions in a group, so once we stop the broadcast, if you just want to come up and chit chat, that's fine. Please, before you leave, there's a lot of resources at the back. Like Mr. Tyler said, take a picture of the website or scan that QR code. That is a great program that you have here in the county. Take one of the hurricane guides that kind of covers everything. Otherwise, we are all set. Is there any questions we got from the audience that you want to ask in front of everybody? Otherwise, we can just do it after. Did you want to say anything? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, come on up and be sure take the mic so they can hear you.
Yes. Hey everybody, I'm Nick. I'm the emergency manager for ECU. Just another tool in the toolbox. I know you're hearing about a lot of different things you sign up, get notified with. So another one in that toolbox is ECU Alert. That's more specified for the Greenville area. So we mainly focus around our main campus as well as the health science campus area. Although you might not be a student, you probably know someone that is. You probably have someone that lives a block or two away from the campus. So anyone can sign up. Just go to ECU's website, type in ECU Alert, and you're all set from there. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Thank you everybody for coming out.